Welcome to Bill's Aviation Podcast, where your stories are our stories. I'm a general aviation pilot, aviation writer, airplane builder, avionics developer, test pilot, and general screw-up. All stories feature Joe and his merry band of miscreants. The purpose of these stories is to educate and entertain pilots. If you have a story you'd like to share anonymously, please contact me. Today's story is titled Barfing on Dad. Joe and his young son Junior were flying to Sun and Fun for a long weekend of tent camping and airplane geeking. The flight down was going well until they got close to Lakeland, where they heard that the airport was closed due to thunderstorms in the area. Joe decided it was best to be on the ground, even though he had plenty of fuel to slow down and wait out the storm. Joe was monitoring the various frequencies, and listening to the Lakeland controllers, he knew he wasn't going to be able to land at Lakeland anytime soon. Like the others, he decided to divert to the Zephyr Hills to wait out the storm. As Joe navigated towards ZPH, the storm clouds grew darker, the winds picked up, and the bumps grew in frequency and intensity. In other words, flying was no longer fun for Joe and Junior. Joe entered the pattern between the other intrepid aviators who were also anxious to get on the ground ASAP. Lining up to land on 2-3, Joe noticed that right off the southern end of the runway was a big black cloud that reached almost to the ground. A cloud that was frequently illuminated by flashes of lightning. Joe thought to himself, don't botch this landing, there's no going around. As they bounced down final and were about 200 feet off the ground, Junior turned his head towards Joe and said, Dad, I don't feel... Bleh. Joe looked down and realized that 5-year-old Junior had just barfed all over his chest. Hand on the stick and throttle, Joe said to himself, don't smell it, focus on the landing, you can't go around, focus on the landing, focus. Joe touched down as smooth as possible, while Junior was looking more and more ashen in the right seat, probably a mix of barfing on his dad and feeling airsick from all the bumps. Joe pulled up directly in front of the FBO building as the sky darkened, lifted Junior out of the plane, had him standing at the end of the wingtip while he tried to wipe him off, himself and the aircraft interior. Then it happened. The heavens opened up. Lightning, thunder, and torrential rains. Junior started crying as he was frightened and getting soaked. As Joe turned his attention back to Junior, a young lady ran from the FBO, scooped up Junior, brought him inside. She then ran back out for his clothes and took him to the restroom to clean him up. By the time Joe had gotten the plane secured against the increasing winds and made it inside, Junior was sitting there, smiling and eating an ice cream treat. Compliments of the unknown lady and her companion. To this day, 10 years later, I still don't know her name. I do remember you joined us in home-built camping in your Piper Cherokee. If you recognize the story, please know that your kindness was very much appreciated that day, and I owe you a big thank you. Lesson learned. When landing and unexpected things happen, like a passenger barfing in the plane, not to mention directly on your chest, focusing on the task at hand can help keep your mind off the stench of the mess at hand. Fly the airplane first and ignore everything else. There will be time to address the secondary issues later. Also, even in the ugliest of situations, an angel can appear and lend a hand. Thank you for listening, and if you enjoyed what you've heard, please hit the like button and subscribe by clicking on the logo in the lower right of your screen. If you really like what you heard, please help by supporting the channel and become a Patreon. Part of each donation will go to the aviation safety and aviation youth programs. Be sure to check out next week's story about Joe turning on the anti-collision lights and the passenger's reaction.